Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
The Daily Compliance News for December 1, 2023. Yes, it's the first day of December, the Data-Driven Enforcement Edition. And we begin with that story from DOJ Press Release, which reports Acting Assistant Attorney General Nicole Argentieri delivered a keynote address at the 40th International Conference on Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in Washington this week, where she said the criminal division's ongoing use of data analytics is increasing and will continue to increase, and it's expanding the use of data to enhance FCPA enforcement. What does that mean for you, the compliance professional? Well, it means that if you're not using data-driven compliance, you're going to be in a world of hurt, particularly when the DOJ comes knocking and they have better information on your own data than you do. Number one, and you will fall very far behind about how, or rather what, your compliance program is in terms of a best practices compliance program. So I would suggest you check out my podcast, Data Driven Analytics, and that will help you get on the right road. Next up, from the New York Times, back at OpenAI, Sam Altman outlines the company's priorities. He said it completed the first phase of a governance structure that has added Microsoft as a non-voting board member as the company works to end the divisions that fueled Altman's ouster as CEO, and sets itself up for yet even bigger and better things going forward. Not really surprising, as Altman can really do what he wants now. And Microsoft expands a 3-person board that OpenAI announced last week. The tech giant is one of OpenAI's biggest investors. Next up, in a very interesting use of bribery, Novaya Gazeta, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, reports that Russian soldiers are increasingly using bribery to avoid combat or to be discharged after a, quote, injury, end quote. So we always say bribery is bad. Well, what if bribery gets you out of a corrupt war? Well, it looks like an injury requiring hospitalization costs about $10,000, and then a simple leave is around $5,000. Servicemen can also pay to be transferred from one section of the front to another, hopefully to get away from the bad stuff. And finally, the Ohio Governor, Mike DeWine, is going to have to testify in the FirstEnergy civil lawsuit. So we're going to see how much of the corruption already appended to the Ohio government goes. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.